Welcome back to the Flip Story. I'm David Gadarian. We explore the intersection of human potential and market creation. Today, we're talking to a man who has transitioned from the front lines of the Army and the oil fields into the high stakes world of industrial talent and engineering. Darren Tompkins didn't just start a staffing agency, he flipped the script on a broken industry to build Vader-Rey. Darren, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dave. Good to see you.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. So, I guess as we get started, before we go back, let's start with the now. Um, in your own words, what does the Vader Ray ecosystem look like today? What are you doing? Just kind of bring the audience up to speed on what the professional pursuits look like.
Yeah, so let's start with the name. As you and your listeners are probably guessing, it is a Star Wars reference. We're a big pop culture family. You and I talked wrestling right before the show. My daughter's names are Josie Vader Tompkins and Izzy Ray Tompkins. And that came from my father's side of, seeing the movies when I was a little kid and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we're a big pop culture family. We do lots of stuff for Halloween and movies and whatnot. So um, wife came up with the idea of putting Vader-Rey because we'd use a lot of virtual recruiters, virtual professionals in the job, which just it's kind of crazy how it all just kind of comes together, when like a great recipe. And yeah, Vader-Rey recruiting. We're three sectors of Vader-Rey recruiting, Vader-Rey engineering, and Vader-Rey virtual professionals. They all kind of work coincide with each other to bring great product to the table with no matter what the industry is. Being here in Houston, obviously we're very oil and gas and engineering centric, but we do have been doing a lot with construction, data center work, literally all up and down the spectrum.
Love it. I'm going to actually come back to Houston in a couple minutes. I'm kind of curious over there, but let's start with the journey here. So, Darren, you start. You're in the Army, right? And what were you doing in the Army?
So I use the Army as a vehicle to get out of my tiny little hometown of Salem, Virginia, which is tucked into the Appalachian Mountains. Most
Right.
people never hear of it, but other than Virginia Tech is about 25, 30 miles away. That's the only spot on the map for it. Used the Army. I was in the military police right out of high school. Deployed quite a bit for my 5-year tour over there. Got the inspiration from some great uncles who were both military policemen. I just love the way they look in their photos from the Korean War and all that kind of stuff and used the Army to build myself up. I was a terrible student. I had gotten accepted to Kent State University, where both my parents were graduates, and knew that I would have just flunked right out of there, man. It would have been all beans and boobs and all that kind of stuff if I went. So the Army was always, or the military in general, was always going to be my way out of getting some discipline, getting some leadership, and whatnot. Um, Ended up in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, which is on the doorstep of the University of South Carolina. And that's just, I was like, I'm not going to move again. I guess this is school that's probably as good as any. Got accepted and got a degree in GIS, with a minor in military science, which meant that I was an RTC guy. So came out as a second lieutenant, but at that point, I was really not into the politics anymore of anything that was happening at the time. So I was offered a clean out from the military. I didn't know any time or money back. And yeah, took a job in oil and gas for Sunoco Logistics, which is the pipeline arm of Sunoco Oil Company, for a job that initially had me in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but they said, if you take it, we're moving you to Houston within 6 months. And that's how I got here in 2005 and never left,
Amazing. Um, let's go back a little bit. Just in that moment, I'm kind of these are some of the interesting contours of life. So here you are. You're in, I think you said Salem,
Virginia. Yeah,
Virginia, and you feel like you want to go somewhere.
exactly. Yeah.
And so, at what point, what age did you think the Army was going to be your vehicle to kind of get you somewhere?
Because I knew it would get me out of there essentially. I mean,
Right.
it's just literally, and then when I finished, you get through basic training in AIT, there towards the latter half, you discover where you're going to go, your first duty station. Mine was in Korea. So I was off to Asia real fast. I went from there back to Virginia. I was at Fort Belvoir very briefly, deployed to Guantanamo Bay, came back, had orders for Germany, and then I was in the Balkans for just over a year, back to Germany. And by then my 5 years was up. It sounds like it's a quick time, but it wasn't. It was stretched out.
Right.
I was able to see and do a lot of different things. A travel bug from all of that, and yeah, just learning the cultural stuff. I was really good at world history and geography in high school. So when it came time for college, to what am I going to study? Because my original goal was to go back in the military full time. What did
Yeah.
I like to study in high school is all I had to go with, and I knew if I went world history route, I probably would be. I wasn't going to be a teacher or anything like that. And I learned about GIS as a technology degree that you could get into and do really well at, and that's how I picked it.
Huh. I think the military is a really interesting space to be in, but it's also an interesting space to go into and to leap from. I think there's a lot
To
of
make your bones, as the old guys used to call it. Pick a job that you can do as you transition out. I had no intention of being in law enforcement. I just wanted to do that job for a bit. Uh,
yeah,
and I preach this on every podcast when they bring it up, which is if your life is absolute shit and you're not covered head to toes in tattoos and you can do a few push-ups, you can enlist anytime and change your life almost overnight. You just have to want it and go for it. It's one of the last great vehicles in this country where you can go to a place, sign this contract. If you're good medically, we'll take you forever. How long you want to go for?
right. Amazing. So, okay, so you got this background. You went from Army into Sunoco.
Mhm.
How did you get into staffing? What was the journey there?
Yeah. So in my oil and gas sector, I was a GIS manager, project manager, did some software implementation for a multitude of different companies.
Right.
Here in Houston, everybody kind of rides the surf wave of what is the you know price of a barrel of crude right now. When it gets low, people get laid off. When it's high, staffing hits. Going through that time, which is 12 years, is where that time I was in the sector, just doing engineering support. Man, I got hit up by a lot of really shitty recruiters, and we all have a stack of them in our email inboxes. I still get to this day, I'll get 10 of them this week. Hey, I have a GIS project manager role that's perfect for you. It's like, brother, I haven't done that in 15 years at this point. I mean, who are you getting this information from? And I was able to learn really fast by going through interviews of, well, this works, this doesn't. And when I was finally approached about taking a job, as a recruiter, I really felt like I'd seen the worst of the worst on the other side, as being a candidate. And so it's like anything, like when you're a patient of something, when you get taken advantage of in some sector of life where you're like, man, I bet I can go in there and make a change. That's what really got the bug. And I was able to adapt to it very quickly, being in the biz, of learning what the cost structures are like, what clients do like, what they don't like, and the challenges that are out there because it is a very crowded field. Make no mistake.
Right. I think that's interesting being able to identify opportunity, but it seemed like it was approximate opportunity. Do you
Yeah.
think if the Army hadn't sent you down to Houston that you'd be doing this path, or you think, who knows, you'd be somewhere totally else?
Okay. So that's interesting that you asked that because when I first, I'm going to tell you a very quick story. When I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma for Sunoco, they announced the move. And they'd been there for like 60 years, right, in Tulsa. So a lot of people just quit because they had families and grandkids, like the whole nine
Right.
yards, been there forever.
Roots.
So
Yep.
the people who were considering moving, they loaded everybody up on Southwest Planes, brought us down here for a long weekend. We got assigned an apartment hunter if you're just going to be an apartment guy like I was, or a real estate person if you're going to buy a house. So the apartment person took me around to all these great places in the Galleria in Midtown, the River Oaks area, which is kind of like the upper crust down here. And I'm like, I can't wait. I found several that I'm like, ready to throw money down. Like I'll sign a year's lease right now.
Right.
We still had to work out the travel pay and all that kind of stuff. So between when they flew us back up to Oklahoma and the move happened, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. And you couldn't find a place to live here to save your life because as everybody knows from that time, all the New Orleans people ended up in Houston. And
Right.
and so all these great places were just gone. And so I ended up down in Sugarland, which is a suburb of Houston, but of course Houston's gigantic, in a
Yeah, it
third
is.
story, one bedroom apartment across the highway from the office. And being a single guy and landing down there in suburbia land was the worst. I tried everything to get out of here. Taking jobs, you're trying to get jobs anywhere so that would get me out of this town. Um, but things finally did settle down. I started dating and made friends, and literally as apartments and stuff opened up, I started moving little bits and pieces towards the middle of town, which is where I wanted to be in the first place. But that took a couple of years. So I think that answered your question. It was a drawn out answer, but
Good,
right.
good. So, all right. So here you are. Let's fast forward a little bit. You you have some good vision. You're in the space. You're working at Sunoco, and it sounds like a couple other spots. You've now gotten a lot of interaction with recruiters. It sounds like you made a leap to go actually work with a recruiter. Um, is that scary?
It was scary in that I made the jump during COVID, literally in 2020. The job opportunity happened. There was a lot of people that were laid off, of course. So it was kind of like, what's going to happen to me? And we had one little kid. And we had um, one that was going to be born in 2021. It was a really scary time. And so I took the job knowing it paid very little. We needed to go find clients to bring an income. It was called doing a full desk where you're not only recruiting, but you're doing sales at the same time. Um, so I took a leap of faith. I cashed out some stocks. I had I could contribute to the month to month of the running a family here in this house that you see me in, and but building a business basically from scratch because they had no clients because COVID just wiped them all out. And I was
Right.
able through my own networking to bring on a couple that were reoccurring. It's like, okay, now we got a little bit of money. Okay, let's go do this. And I started realizing that recruiting isn't cold calling. It's not any of the stuff, even though we hire cold callers and LinkedIn outreach and all that. It is literally like any other business development activity. It's who do you know and do they trust you? So all of our original clients came from my contacts through um, a workout group from our gym here. It's called the Estonian. Now it's a very high end gym. A lot of business owners, and they're still my friends and partners in some other things too. But the business relationship is huge, and if you mess that up, there's 50 companies right behind you waiting to step up to the plate.
Huh. Okay. So you're doing that.
Mhm.
And how long from that to Vader-Rey?
Yeah, so got into that in 2020. Um, I left that company that was a very small boutique. So there were some problems with that.
Sure.
Went
It's
to
not
an
good.
international firm where I was doing retained search worldwide for a short period of time. But I knew when I made the jump from the small company to this bigger one, I'm like, you know what? I can see it. I can see an off ramp here. Because I
Yeah.
had contacted some of the clients that were friends of mine. Of course, they're all friends. If I leave and do my own thing, you're going to come with me, right? And the answer was always yes. So it's like, okay, now I'm gonna be able to keep my own money, build a company with the work that I'm already doing. I didn't have a non-compete or a non-solicitation or anything like that. So it was just like I talked to my wife, Steph, and that was the big entrepreneur moment. I'm gonna set a date. I'm not gonna deviate from it, and we're gonna go for this. Now I
Right.
did the prep stuff, making sure the website's available. Getting our kind of like our CRM stuff together and a roadmap of where we could be in a year, 2 years, 3 years, that kind of stuff. But it was a scary time because even though we had a nest egg because I was working for the full time company, but I was side hustling, building the client base for Vader-Rey on the side. So I was there like 7 months, told them I'm done, and then gave myself like 2 weeks off, which was the most awkward thing I've ever done because I had no idea what to do with my time. And yeah, we launched, and it was just it was the way that I did it was I had a plan and I had money coming in versus going to like getting a business loan or something like that, which, you're in other people's pockets at that time. We've been able to bootstrap this whole thing, not relying on anybody else's money, which has been a really uplifting feeling that I do coach other people on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can come back to that coaching piece, but as far as the Vader-Rey piece, I know you. Where did you start this? Were you? I know your business is kind of growing in a few different directions, but where did the original piece kind of live?
Yeah, I would say September of 2023 is when I left the other W-2 and went for this. And then so 24 was kind of like a building year of getting the processes together, understanding what Veda Ray is going to be. 25 was elevate and automate a bunch of stuff. This year we're just building on everything and more clients, more diversification, all that stuff. While, maintaining an office in the Philippines and making sure those guys are good to go with what's happening.
Right. So one of the things I believe you've spoken about in the past is growing too fast, and the kind of the challenges of scale. Do you mind sharing a little bit on that in terms of how you manage a flip and how it's always kind of exciting. I think especially in the space of staffing and recruiting where the it seems like the needs compound really quickly, and then there's moments of probably acute famine where there's just not a lot of gig, there's not a lot of opportunity. I think I would imagine some of that's seasonal, um, some of that's based on just macroeconomics too.
That's exactly right. And I actually look at it on the client side as well, because what ends up happening when you're scaling, even if it's a big oil and gas client, when it's feast or famine, when it's feast, sales are happening, they're doing construction on new tank farms or wherever the heck it is, and they're physically building things, right? But then it's all of a sudden it's like, well, crap, we need to upgrade our IT, or we need to improve our legal team, or whatever, engineering support, or we need mill rights, or whatever it is on the backside of this. They A lot of people, when it comes to who your core base team is, right? You got the president, you've got whoever's in head of accounting, you usually have like a head sales guy. If they're not if they're not gelling with the vision of what the owner or whoever it is, one's going to take off and go kill it, and the other two are like, hey, wait, we're not there yet, and it trickles down to recruiting. We do have very dead times. The funny story is we had a great gig working on a data center development from January or June through the end of January this year, and then what happens generally is people are working on their budgets kind of like right around the holidays, usually right when Halloween kicks off. Things really slow down in recruiting unless there's some anomaly that happens. And I went to Steph, my wife, who's the CFO and then half the owner of the company. I'm like, hey, we're good right now, right? Because she understands how cyclic it is as well. She's like, yeah, we're fine. Yeah, just do what you can and keep talking to the clients and potential clients. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go play Call of Duty because I got nothing else to do today. And it's a slow time, but you're prepping for the next year. Um, that's an extreme example of how it can work. But when you're dealing with projects that maybe aren't funded yet, right? There, companies are doing exploratory recruiting. What's the workforce look like out there? So when we do say we're going, then we go. Then of course you
Right.
get the damn problems that happen with dealing with candidates, people who sign an offer letter and never show up for day one, or they fail the drug test, or whatever. They want to negotiate for more money when there isn't. There's
Right.
a lot of risk involved, and so what we do is we hedge our knowledge and our processes against that risk to get somebody hired on. That's perfect.
Huh. All right. Different question, but related in this space here. Just because it's top of mind for everybody, everywhere. It seems like all the time. How is the wave of AI hitting your business in terms of talent, in terms of recruiting, in terms of client expectations, in terms of your expectations of your candidates? I'm just kind of curious of kind of, especially you kind of live in a unique sector in a unique space. What does that look like?
Well, we're a very, very AI forward company. Everything, all of our processes are based around it. And, the traditional recruiting would be we'll post a job to LinkedIn or something, and somebody will apply to it if you're lucky. Otherwise, other times you have to go find them, right? And then you try to kind of like tell the story from their resume. is this a good candidate or not? Because you don't really want to start the conversation if you don't think that they can't do the bullet requirements that are on the job description, right? Because what you do, you compare the candidate to the, and it's a long process. The old adage is you have 2 seconds to get a recruiter's um, attention, which is true, still very true. Now that's down to a microsecond because what happens is if you apply to a job, right now we're working on a warehouse director. A lot of people do warehouse work, right? So we're getting inundated with resumes. Instead of having to read all of the resumes, what we do is we have our AI program, recruiting AI, where we'll batch load everybody 10, 10, 12, whatever the number is. Here's the job description. Now, based on everything because we'll include things like the cultural fit of the company, here's the website, we feed it all in there. Now, I want you to rate these people from 1 to 10 using the decimal points and rate them in a descending order. And
Right.
we've been finding over the last couple of years is it's almost you know who Dave Portnoy is, Barstool Sports, he does pizza
I do.
review.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like that where he knows that there's no such thing as a 10. There just isn't, right? But if you can find somebody that's between like an 8.8 and like a 9.4, that's the sweet spot.
Nine
So
fours. He does not give out a lot of nine
he does
fours.
not, right? But he's this pizza guy, right? So what ends up happening is the people that are within that range, it's very rare to see 9.4. We see 8.8 to like 9.2 is kind of like where the medium is. What we'll do is, okay, now these are the people we want to talk to and get that initial interview done, right? So we do the interview. We have a sheet of, uh, you know, very specific questions to the job, the cultural questions that you have to ask, and then I'll ask the recruiter, what'd you think? Oh, they were great. Or sometimes you don't have to go any further because the people are assholes or whatever. You're like, this is never going to work. Because they
Right.
just, their personalities don't work. And then we will run it again through the AI, given all the information. What do you think? And usually people will get bumped up a couple of decimal places. If they don't, if they go down, then there's something really wrong here. But so then we will do this big submission packet based on all this data that we have. That used to take a long time. Now we get it done in minutes, right? It cuts down the time and money that you're going to have to spend to get this all done. It cuts our time down, meaning that we can run leaner and faster using the AI. Now
Right.
we're getting on the back end too, because again, we're supporting data center builds and whatnot with 1099 guys. But it's been a very big piece of ours, and I know on the opposite side with candidates, I give this kind of advice all the time. I can tell when you have an AI resume, man. It's just very easy to pick up on, whether I'm seeing it because of the keywords or I'll just take it and run it through the AI. Our AI, I'm like, tell me the probability that this person did not create this. And occasionally you'll get nuggets that will just upload their resume to like Indeed or something, but it has the AI prompts at the bottom. Like, that
Uh-huh.
GPT will continue to ask questions like, well, come on, man, this isn't even you. It's, and we will have clients that will like, if this is over a percentage of AI, we're not interested because there's no creativity and no self worth when it comes to that. Because they still want to see people that will tell their own story. AI can't always do that. And, because, again, it's a big cultural fit nowadays versus just can they do the job?
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I think on the AI resume piece, it is. I'm not sure where I kind of land on it. Um,
Send it to me. I'll let you know.
no, not so much on that piece of, but really just kind of widening out of, you know, it's. I don't want to say AI has become mainstream and normalized, but there's certainly more and more AI, and it's almost to the point where it's not unreasonable that, of course, somebody AI optimized their resume. That's no longer. I'm not sure if that's still as. It sounds like it is, but I don't know for how long it's going to continue to be such a big knock against someone.
If you here's a quick tip. Take the word dynamic out of your friggin' resume. That is the ultimate AI keyword. Everybody's dynamic. I mean, we're not talking about superheroes here. Just use something else.
Right,
It's just like when you see it like a couple of times on your resume, it's like, tell me how you're dynamic. Like, do you run at light speed or,
right
do you lift buildings? It's such an overused. And I use it,
there.
my own resume in the past, but Nah, man, that's every AI uses that as a descriptor.
All right, it's a
Mhm.
good call out. If you're in the market for a job, don't use the word
That is nice.
dynamic. It's
Yeah.
an
Mhm.
automatic red flag. So we're talking about efficiency a little bit here on this AI space, in particular around your business. One of the things as I was prepping for our time together, I was kind of fascinated by it seems like you have a pretty robust virtual professional VA business. I was really excited to ask you about, both uh why did you pursue that as an add-on, as an extension, as a new kind of area? And also, it does get back to some of that, you know, whether it's AI or efficiency, comfort gap. It's I was just kind of curious. So how'd you get there?
I just met a guy. I was part of a mastermind networking group that pushed get a virtual professional. If you have some side jobs or whatever you need to do, if you're like me, I'm terribly unorganized. Um, for the cost per hour of less than hiring a babysitter, you can have this person organize your entire day. And I was very intrigued by that. I talked to a few guys all around the world, like guys that were like, "Hey, you should look at this one, look at this one." And when it came time to actually going out and starting the recruiting biz, I found out that I can use recruiters that were VAs that had master's degrees and had been doing the job for years, that moved way faster than American hire would do. And I'm not dissing America at all, America first and all that stuff. But when you're starting out and you're penny pinching, this I thought was a better option. And that's exactly what happened. I picked up a recruiter. She was easy to train. I was able to give her the vision. And then we kicked off from there. And it's like, "Hey, who else do you know?" And, I could use some marketing help. So she connected me up with somebody else. And it's like, I've got this whole marketing firm working for me now, for a couple of different companies that I have. And it's like, okay, well, who do you know? So I had this idea. Who could I run it by? And it's so quick with the virtual professionals. I'm trying to change the narrative on what a virtual assistant is. That's somebody who's just setting appointments and stuff to the virtual professional that are doing it, everything you've ever heard of. That you just may never meet them face to face,
Right.
um, and they're doing literally everything. We're doing government contract setup. We're doing everything from newsletters and all the marketing. I mean, my guys will get this video, we'll dice it up into shorts and everything, and push it out to all of our social media. Um, and everything in between. I mean, it's just been really an amazing journey and that's a big piece where we're able to scale at a comfortable level where we don't need to get a bank loan to cover, payroll.
Right.
We can just bootstrap this from the work we already had. And that's been key for our success. The
Right.
virtual
It sounds
professionals
like
are just bangers. I love working with them. Mhm.
it sounds like it's been a good steady stream for Vader-Rey
But
overall.
there's a very simple sauce with this, which is treat them like employees. I have people in the past that I work with that, yeah, I hired this guy, he's half time, and I just tell him to organize my calendar, and it'll be weeks before I talk to him. No, no, they're at Vader-Rey, they are Vader-Rey employees, whether they're part time or full time. We do
Right.
kickoff meetings at the beginning of the week, wrap up meetings at the end. We meet every day. How can I help you? Kind of stuff. And it's just like I've been saying, man, treat them like gold, and they'll give everything back. You know, um, it's an amazing concept that there's people on the other side of the planet that work our daytime hours to support you, and that's exactly what happens.
Right. Neat. All right. I want to move a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to talk. We talked about. I alluded to. I was kind of curious. Houston curious. Um, I got a theory here. I do believe every city has a personality. I know that to be true. I'm from Boston, so yeah, I'm very familiar with Dave Portnoy because of Barstool, because pizza, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, has nothing to do with the actual question though. But Houston has its own personality, and I think there's also this other thing happening where there's a lot of pressure on cities to produce, to be, you know, productive for their citizenry, to be fruitful, to be good environments. So, like the story you told of trying to move closer to the center of the city, somebody else is trying to move further away from the city, but still Houston proximate, um, and cities overall across the whole country, across the whole world. In fact, they're undergoing some pretty dynamic flips of their own. Houston is kind of fascinating in that it is such an oil and gas place. And so I guess my question for you, you're right there, you're in the seat of it. How is Houston managing to flip from pure energy into, you've already alluded to this a couple times, I can see it on my own, into data centers? What's the journey there?
Yeah, well, Houston has a flavor. If you want to eat or drink, this is the place to go. It's a melting pot of everything because all roads lead to oil and gas. So we have Dallas and Houston, which take have really dominate the industry sectors here in Texas. The energy sector does share a lot of that wealth with the medical sector. That's the other thing that's gigantic here. We have the finest medical center anywhere. It's a whole city unto itself. Um, but as far as how the city diversifies, um, obviously data centers are built in places where there's lots of land that generally not close to anything. There's a lot of blank land when you get out between here and the other, I think the real estate people call it infill. This empty space between cities, right? So
Yeah.
you have Houston here, and then you have San Antonio or Austin here, San Antonio. Then you have Dallas, what used to be called the Golden Triangle, and that's how Southwest Airlines started up, flying between the three big cities. Um, yeah, I mean, the outside, companies are building or buying up huge tracts of land, and not just for data centers. There's been a big interest in film, like TV and movie filming. So there's a huge sector out west of here called Sealy, I think it's Sealy, where they've built bought up many thousands of acres, and they're going to put movie production facilities there. Lots of with when you have like data centers and you have an exploding population like we do, I think we overtook Chicago as far as like population here. Um, Obviously, there's lots of Amazon infrastructure and things like that. All the warehousing and stuff that are going in, and it just and I'm turning into an old guy where I live in the center of town. I live in Houston Heights. We're on kind of on top of each other, great houses, right? But at the same time, when we talked about the infrastructure thing before, they're putting up apartments everywhere on these streets that are like one lane each. And
Right.
like, why would anybody want to live here when it's like it's just so much crowding that's going on, and a lot of eminent domain things are happening to trying to improve the infrastructure here. Um, but it'll almost be me asking you what's it like in downtown Boston, in the pharmaceutical industry, the medical stuff that happened there
Right, I
versus
think about it awesome.
you know?
Often I do. I mean, I had an opportunity. I was at the time I was living out west in LA. It's a very grid city. Um, it's a neat city in its own right. And then I got to visit Houston, and I was kind of
What month?
fascinated. What's that?
What month was it?
Oh, it was hot. It was for a buddy from New England, his wedding, and he didn't know any better, so he had an outdoor wedding. It was insane. So anyways, I got to drive around. I was really kind of fascinated by the grid aspect. I kind of get what you're saying of these kind of two-story cities that are now becoming four-story cities. I,
Houston, you may not know this, is
yeah.
unincorporated, which means anything. If you buy your house and there's an empty lot next to it, it could be anything. Literally, they
Okay.
could in my neighborhood, that's what it is. These old houses have been converted into massage parlors or, art studios or mercantile shops, whatever.
Right.
Mhm.
Huh. Yeah. So, anyways, I think about Boston. I think about all these cities in terms of personality. I think about migration patterns, but I think Houston is kind of somewhat special in that the oil and gas space is not something that's very well understood by people outside of that space. And
You know what's really hard to find here is a native Houstonian, someone
yeah,
who, has
gold
lived here
rush.
their entire lives. Yeah.
It's got, because of the nature of, I think the entertainment industry was like that too. Of I actually used to talk about this a fair amount. Of the entertainment industry is in some ways like wildcatting, where you're drilling all these holes. Some of them are going to hit, most of them aren't.
Yeah, something will stick
And
eventually. Yeah.
right, if you drill enough holes, you might actually find the oil, but there's no guarantee,
I mean,
and it
that's
could
entrepreneurship right there, you know?
right, and so it's got an element to that to it for sure. So, anyways, sorry to get us distracted
Yeah,
on
of
the
course.
world of Houston, but um, I just think your background, it was kind of an
I
interesting
went to an outdoor
opportunity.
wedding last year in Austin.
Uh huh.
They don't have the humidity, but damn, as soon as that little ray of sunshine peeked over the trees, I'm like, "Oh, good lord, you just
Yep.
like a sponge." Yeah.
I'd never felt humidity like I did in Houston. I will say that with just I couldn't believe it. My body had never experienced that before, so
And
it was
I
unique.
and you were bitching about the snow a minute ago before the show.
Yeah, I'll I'll take the humidity over the snow, but maybe not that extreme. It was just it was fascinating to me. My body had never been that humid. Anyways, it is what it is. So, all right, I want to shift a little bit into one of our signature um, pieces on the show, which is the Flip Story recipe book. And for you, Darren, I'd like to invite you to kind of share some of those key ingredients, maybe the method, the place. I think with your journey, maybe some mindset on what that recipe is from being an operator into being a strategic leader.
Yeah, so my entire story is based around the fact that when I was in a W-2, we always say it like that. When I was in a W-2, I had some great bosses in oil and gas and some great bosses in recruiting. But man, I hated every day working for them. It was just there was always something that just didn't click, you know? Whether that's, "Hey, I need you to join this Teams meeting at 7 AM," to, "Oh, yeah, we're gonna go to this conference, and then you have to go to this dinner, and then you have to go have drinks with us when all I wanna do is go back to the hotel and take a nap," you know? Um, I just didn't like working for other folks, man. And even when I've been served on the board of directors of some significant places here, for nonprofits, it's the same thing. It's like, God, I need to do my own thing, you know? That is it's like the Billy Joel songs, starting the fire, or, I'm sorry, not Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, "Can't Start a Fire Without a Spark." That for me was like, I put my wife through a lot, where it's like, I'm making good pay in the W-2 world, but man, I really just want to take this risk, and she's very risk adverse, and she's in oil and gas. She works for BP. So it was garnering her buy-in was really the rocket fuel that really set this thing in motion. She agreed to come in as a partner, but I think for anybody that is thinking about flipping the script, um, I used to like, I would be like an IT project manager making whatever amount of money, and I didn't really have anything to go by as far as like, okay, here's my group of friends, right? Here's the things we get to do. I know what the people back in high school were doing because I was using Facebook, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm doing way better than they were. I must be doing great." Let's just keep earning this paycheck. We'll go to the lake and all that kind of stuff, and do whatever people do. Go out and buy expensive dinners and whatnot. But that life fulfillment, that mindset, really, it took me joining some masterminds and meeting other like people that said, "Oh yeah, you want to start doing your thing? When do you want to start? Set the date." Like, no, 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 no. Like, what if something goes wrong? Well, everything's going to go wrong. It just is. That's life. Quit. If it instead of complaining to me, why don't you just go out and set the framework for doing it? And that is really just taking that leap of faith is what's going to improve your life. If the entrepreneur thing is what you want to do, never thought of it before, because the army kind of hammers it to just follow orders and do your job. Um, I thought I was doing good in oil and gas, but I always had a big creative side too, which you're not allowed to do in a lot of W-2s that are process driven, which is IT project management, all that kind of stuff,
Right.
all process. So here I am with a company that I have full creative control over, that I can teach the ways and vision to other people, and they embrace it, which is why we've been so successful so far.
That's amazing. I love that. Well, I guess as we're wrapping out here, how do people find you?
Yeah, you can find us at Vader-Rey.com or VaderReyRecruiting.com. Um, LinkedIn is something that we use quite a bit in recruiting. Hopefully, you won't get spammed by any of my guys here in the near future. But yeah, it's just I do believe for like a party thought is you have to have creativity and process in your life. If it's heavy on one side or heavy on the other, there's something that's going to be missing. As an entrepreneur, that is a balance you're always going to be shifting back and forth. Um, but when it works, it really your life feels fulfilled.
Love it. Darren, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's
Thanks,
been
dear. Appreciate it. Hope you thaw out pretty soon.
absolutely. What's that?
I hope you thaw out pretty soon.
Get me started.
We'll send you about
Don't
1 cubic mass of air here, and that'll be enough to like melt all this down.
we'll see. We're on the downward slope. We're supposed to see 70 next week, so
Nice.
fingers crossed. So we'll see what happens there. Well, listen, guys, it's been absolutely amazing. If you're looking to get some guidance and some focus on how to flip your own journey and head into entrepreneurship, I think Darren's given us some pretty amazing insights through his journey. So, Darren, thanks again for coming on and for sharing your insights and your wisdom, all in, all up. So, with
Thanks, Dave.
that,
I never actually thought people would thank me for my wisdom, but here we are.
here we are. It
About to turn
happens.
52. So yeah,
Yeah,
it is about.
it's about around that age where you start to officially get wisdom. I think I've read that in many places. So being 52, I can appreciate that. So with that, guys, I'm David Gadarian, and thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one.